All right, it's 12:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our Lunch and Learn. Thanks everyone who is here. I'm Carissa Chuka with Results Repeat. Throughout the webinar today, Adam Deal, our SEO account manager, is going to talk to us about how to rank #1 with SEO and hit on all the top points that you need to help your website climb in rankings, traffic, and conversions. Throughout the webinar today, everyone will be muted. But we will have a Q&A at the end. So please, if you have questions, drop those into the chat. And then Adam and I will have a Q&A at the end where we can go over your questions, answer all your burning questions about SEO. Without any further ado, I'll let Adam take it from here.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to talk about how we can rank #1 with SEO. A little twist on how to rank #1 with SEO, but we're going to get right into it. So how are you going to succeed with search engine optimization in 2021 and beyond? SEO is a long-term game. Patience is key, as Google can take up to 6 months to fully index any SEO changes to your website in backlinks, citations, content, images, anything. Getting traffic and business from Google with SEO for any business is extremely important and an often untapped marketing strategy. The digital marketing industry is flooded with businesses that perform poor SEO and give it a bad name. I'm here to show you a different story. Although the #1 spot on Google gets the most clicks, the margin of difference between spot 1 and 3 is not that much. The top 3 websites in organic search results gain 75% of the clicks. The #1 spot gets 31% of that 75%. So let's look at some numbers. Out of 100 possible click opportunities, which is an average targeted volume for small business keywords, the #1 organic spot gets 23 clicks, the second spot 18, and the third spot 14. The remainder goes through 4 through 10 and the pay-per-click ads. The map section also is an organic section of search results, and they get the remaining 20 clicks. Although on mobile, these numbers are a little bit different. The map section would get much higher clicks than the organic section. So does the strategy I'm about to show you actually work? Well, the #1 spot has been coveted for years as the Holy Grail, but that shouldn't be the focus of any campaign, and no SEO professional can guarantee the #1 spot for any keyword. If they do, you should run away and find another agency. We're going to take a look at some real-world examples of an SEO strategy that was implemented in January of 2020. Results Repeat's own SEO engagement was to focus on content creation around topics relative to our audience in order to create an authoritativeness in Google's eyes and also drive qualified traffic. In January 2020, we implemented this strategy on our own website. And you can see the growth over the last 16 months. So yes, it works. There are some parts of the SEO strategy that are commonly overlooked or done incorrectly. We're going to touch on these now before getting deeper into the core of SEO. These are the 3 most important technical factors in order to rank any page, starting with titles and descriptions. The title is the blue link in the Google search results, or SERPs, and you want to include your target keyword or phrase as close to the beginning as possible. Also, you want to include a statement or question to make it enticing for people to click on. The description, although it isn't a direct ranking factor anymore, it provides value to searchers as a brief introduction to the page or post. That's the part just below the title, over here in the image, this part down here in the bottom. Creates more enticing reasons for the user to click. You can see the keywords I typed into Google Results Repeat are actually bolded inside of that description. So as many SEOs believe that does not carry any weight for ranking anymore, there is still some bold effect from your search query that gets highlighted in there, so it may carry a little bit of ranking weight. The third technical factor that's often overlooked is headings. There's 6 different types of headings, numbered 1 through 6, H1 through H6. On-page headings at the top of the page, the H1s, are the most important to include your target keywords in. and should support the title that we just talked about. Headings also provide topical context to the contents of the page, and that is important with Google, so they can understand the content of the page by scanning the headings rather than scanning the entire page. There's something called a 10-second test. Can you tell what a web page is about by looking at it for 10 seconds? You're most likely going to start looking at the headings first, and then the images, and then the content if there's time. Google does something similar. Here's a breakdown of how heading structure works with on page. The H1, you will read this first. The H1 is the most important and should closely match your title, but not exactly. You also want to only have one of these on your page. WordPress automatically copies the page with post title as a second H1, and Google knows it. So it's okay to have two if you have WordPress or a similar platform. The H2, and then you will read this. These are meant to be major sections of your content and should be used as such. Keyword inclusion isn't as necessary here, but you can use it to contextualize your headings as you move down the page. The H3s, heading 3s, then this one at the bottom of the image. These are supposed to be used underneath of H2s to help support them. A good example of this is if you're talking about a bicycle. The H2 would be bicycle. The H3 would be wheels, brakes, handlebars, things like that. The H4 through H6, you will read this last at the top left-hand corner of the image. These are used to help break down important facts within your content. They have the least value when it comes to ranking, but it should be used to help the reader understand the content on the page better or to draw their eyes in a certain direction. So those are the three most important technical ranking factors when it comes to SEO. Let's talk about the core of it next. How important is content and how long it should be? There's different types of pages that we're going to be talking about here, mainly two. One is a pillar page, which is the example in this image here, which usually have over 2,000 words. The average spot for pages or posts of that nature are for spot number 1, 2, and 3 are right around 2,300 words per page. But we all know that we can't all write that many words on a topic, so let's talk about a little bit something more relative to us. The average ranking position for normal content, as I like to call it, is right around 1,100 words per page. These are blog posts, normal pages like service pages and things like that. You can see in this chart a little bit more realistic with content length when it comes to our businesses and the businesses that we help. An 1,100 word page is a lot easier to write than a 2,500 word page. An instance of this that Results Repeat used is a topic about Google Sitekit, which is a plugin for WordPress that allows you to sync all of Google's products within your WordPress site. We wrote this post and it has 1,251 words on it. So not every page needs to have 2,500 words in order to rank. You can see in this image that we actually gained a featured snippet, which is position 0, above Google's own product page and above WordPress's own download page. It's only 1,251 words. This proves that you don't have to write 2,000 plus word articles in order to rank. So how do you want to create your content? We're going to create topics and content around all the things that your customer searches for. It includes what their pain points are. You can describe a service or product with incredible detail. The use of images, videos, and lots of text, but not just for the sake of typing a lot of words. Make it readable, informative. There's two algorithms, BERT and EAT. They're Google's content algorithms. They're machine learning, and they look for contextual content. The days of keyword spamming are over, and you no longer have to worry about keyword saturation anymore. That last point is the second key as to why you don't need to rank number 1 for any keyword. A single page can rank in the top 3 for multiple keywords, pulling in that traffic from all of them. If you rank in the top 3 for multiple keywords with pages that meet your users' needs, you're actually winning against your competitors. So what else can we do with our content? Google loves fresh content. They can't resist updated content. When you update your existing content on a regular basis, it gains a much better rankings and traffic. The click-through rate, which is when a person comes to your site and clicks through to an additional page to read more, usually increases with these updates as well. So a good schedule to follow with updating content: grab your top 5 performing posts or pages and update those every single month. The secondary content, you can take the next 10 or 15 best pages and update those on a quarterly basis, even if it's just changing out an image or adding an additional paragraph. Simplicity is the key here. All the remaining pages and posts should be updated once a year. So speaking of staying up to date, Core Web Vitals, introduced last year, are a set of metrics related to speed, responsiveness, and visual stability. This is Google's latest ranking algorithm, and it's set to be released next month, June 2021. This makes site speed a vital component of ranking and user experience. It is made up of 3 main components: largest contentful paint, LCP, first input delay, FID, or in this image's case, TBT. They just call it something different on that speed test. And cumulative layout shift or content layout shift, CLS. So let's break these down a little bit. LCP, largest contentful paint. This is the largest file that's on your website in order for it to load. So that's the biggest picture, the video, something like that. Usually at the top of the page on the home page, that's what we're talking about with that. How long does it take for that to load? The first input delay, or TBT, how long does it take for forms, menus, or interactive elements to load? So the first thing that somebody can click on or input any kind of information in, how long does it take for that to load? The content layout shift, or cumulative layout shift, this is an epic one. We've all had this happen where we're on our phone and the website loads and we start to scroll, and then it scrolls back up to the top real quick, or an ad pops up after we're halfway done reading a paragraph, and then that paragraph disappears or moves down the page. That's content layout shift. It's super frustrating for users, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. There's 3 tests that you can use. The one that you see on the screen here, this is this is GT metrics. This is the easiest one and the prettiest one that will produce a report for you. Webpagetest.org. That's a really detailed version of GT metrics. And then you have Google's own page speed insights. Those are the 3 best tools to use. So how does branding come into play with SEO? Well, it's pretty important. A branded search is when a user searches for a product or service with your company name attached to it. So if we're looking for results repeat SEO in Google, that's a branded search. Results repeat web design, that's a branded search. Web design Philadelphia, that's a non-branded search. Branded searches provide strength and trust with website users and Google. Google loves it so much. When your search terms are 55% branded or higher, you're doing something right with your off-page marketing efforts, and they are in line with your on-page marketing efforts. A great balance between branded and non-branded is about 60% to 40%. Attaching the brand name to the end of the SEO titles that we talked about before provides value for new product or service launches. Launching a new product or service takes great marketing efforts to get off the ground. Leveraging your off-page techniques with SEO gives you the best possible outcome. Through all the Google algorithm updates, web design changes, and technology upgrades, content is still king after all these years with SEO. but you aren't creating content for the sake of just creating the content. You're providing content that is beneficial to your users, answers questions, and creates trust in your brand. With the new ranking algorithm next month, speed and user experience should be at the top of your list of concerns with your website also. But when we upload this video to YouTube, I'll include some free links and SEO tools to help you with your keyword research, content creation, and speed reports. So for right now, that's the end of this. And I see we have a bunch of questions that have come in. So we're going to start to answer those now.
So yeah, so everyone look for the video on YouTube. Like Adam said, we'll list out some of the tools that he mentioned throughout this video, and I'm sure there will be more that we can list there that he hasn't mentioned. But just to jump into some of the questions, Adam, tell us, someone asked if I update my top 5 pages, how much content do I need to change? And then I think in follow-up to that, how do you even know what your top 5 pages are? You might think you know what they are. How can you find out what they are? And then how much content do you need to change on those pages?
Absolutely. So let's start with, how do we identify those pages? Excuse me. Our first Lunch and Learn with Ellen actually answered a lot of those questions with how to find those pages. So in Google Analytics, we can see for any kind of a date range that we set, that you can see what the most visited pages were on your website in a list. It'll just give you the top 10, and you can filter it down to the top 50, top 100, and I believe top 250. So that's where you can get that list, is from Google Analytics. You can also get it from Google Search Console. That will provide you a similar list with the top pages with impressions and the top pages with users or clicks. So that's where you can get your list of most interactive pages. As far as the content that you want to update on those pages, for instance, if we're talking about a new product that you launched 6 months ago in a blog post that you wrote about it, well, something changed with that product within those 6 months. You can add a paragraph, you can change a sentence, you can change an image, you can add a video, you can do as much or as little as you want. When you update that page, on the back end of your website builder, it should automatically append a new date to that page that tells Google, oh, this page was updated on this date. So when they come back to revisit that page, they can see the last time it was changed and the most recent time it was changed. And they're saying, oh, they updated some older content. Let's rescan this entire page and give it a new ranking. So they basically treat that old page as a new page, but with a little bit of a twist that says they're replacing content or updating outdated content. And they love that. So anything from a sentence or an image to an entire paragraph, you can even restructure the entire page if nothing's right on that page anymore.
Why does Google like updated content so much? Why is it so important?
Believe it or not, Google's primary focus is the user and answering a user's question or giving a user the proper information. So if you are updating your information as often as you can possibly do it, that lets Google know that you're giving them the best possible updated information that you can possibly give. And that's why they love it so much, because they want to serve that updated information to people rather than old, outdated content.
Got it. So speaking of user experience, you talked about how keyword stuffing is totally out. And obviously keywords are still an important aspect of SEO. I know as a SEO company ourselves, we do have a focus on keywords, but it's not the only focus. How do we know if our content is too keyword spammy, and how can we make it better?
There's a couple different answers to this. So you still want to be a little bit spammy with your keywords. And like I said, the title and the H1 are those are the two most important parts to put your keywords in. So if you're targeting vacuums, you would want to put the word vacuum in each one of those, the title, the description, and the heading, those 3 technical ranking factors. You don't want to write vacuum, 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 vacuum. That's super spammy and that's old, and we no longer do that. But the best vacuums or the top 10 vacuums, things like that, you can use that. If we're talking about bags versus bagless vacuums, we could talk about that in the same sentence. So you're going to use the word vacuum twice in that sentence. But as you go, you don't want to reuse that same sentence over and over and over throughout the page. There used to be a general rule that you wanted to have about a 5% keyword saturation. So if you had 1,000 words on your page, 100 words on your page, 5 of them should be the word vacuum. That's no longer the case. We can use a thesaurus, and when I talk about being contextual, you want to differentiate that word vacuum. There's 100 different ways that you can say the word vacuum. So that's what I mean about contextualizing and not overusing the keyword that you're trying to target.
All right. So let's say we're trying to, based on what we've learned today, trying to add new content to the site. How often should we post new content pages or new blog posts every month?
And this changes with the size of the business and how much digital marketing you're doing with your business. A small business, a HVAC repair person or an electrician, once a month as a blog post is a good starting point. Somebody like Results Repeat, we publish content on an almost weekly basis, whether it be blogs, pages being updated, new service pages. There's something going on at least once a week. So getting your foot out the door and getting a blog post done once a month is usually a good start. And then once you start getting that ball rolling, getting it to be second nature of creating a post once a month, then you can start to go back and revisit some of those older posts and do 2 a month. So you can do 1 new one and 1 refurbished, as we call it. And then as you move forward through that, you can start to bring in some more content writers and start to do 2 new ones and 1 refurbished, or 2 new ones and 2 refurbished per month. So you're doing 1 per week. Some companies on the larger scale, Fortune 500 companies, they may be doing it every day. So that it really depends on the size of your business and the budget that you're willing to throw at your content.
Right. I was just going to add, so that sounds overwhelming to anyone. We obviously can help. We can share the responsibility of content. We do with a lot of our clients. Some clients, we handle all of it. Some they handle the blogging and we handle other aspects of SEO. So there's definitely ways to work that out and in a way that works with your schedule while you're running your business. Back to branded search. So you mentioned a certain percentage of your search should be branded and a certain percentage should be unbranded. How do we find out what that percentage is? And should we focus more on branded searches or unbranded searches?
Good question. This is a little bit more technical to find out the branded versus non-branded. A good spot to do this is inside Google Search Console. When you look at your data in Google Search Console over the course of a month, 9 times out of 10, when I look at a company's data inside of there, I see their brand name at the top of the query list, or some derivatives of it. So what I will do is I will take the top 10 keywords and look at that and give the ratio there. So if out of the top 10 keywords that people reached your site for that month, if 6 of them are branded, that's a 60% ratio. If 7 of them are branded, that's a 70% ratio. That's the easiest way to analyze that number. And what was the second part of that question, Carissa? I'm sorry.
Should we be more focused on branded or unbranded? And it sounds like, if we're over, you said 55%, we should be more focused on non-branded searches.
And this is an also depends question, because a lot of times when you're releasing a new product or service, you want to be brand heavy with it. You want to create that trust within that new service or product. When we're looking at an existing service or product, we're going to be a little bit more balanced on the non-branded side. So if you're looking to launch a new product or service, use your brand as a benefit to create that trust. So you would be a little bit more brand heavy there with an 80% ratio, hopefully. As more time goes on, we would see a little bit more balance of that.
Got it. That makes sense. So talk to us about core vitals. There's a major update. How concerned should we be? Is there anything that we should be doing to prepare?
Run scared. No, I'm just kidding. For the most part, websites on the average that we see before we do any kind of speed optimizations, they are fully loaded in about 8 seconds. The largest contentful paint, which is the most important part of that, the LCP, that's the videos or images at the top of the page. They usually load in the 2 to 4 second range, which is pretty good. We're still at a guess with how heavy this is going to affect rankings. But from what Google has stated is, this is the primary ranking factor moving forward. They're placing a huge emphasis on user experience, especially with mobile. So we want to make sure that all of the images are compressed, all of the videos are compressed as best as we can even with free tools we can do it with. Cleaning up back-end code and things like that. These are all the things that we've been working on pretty heavily with existing customers and also with new clients coming in, making sure that that's one of the primary things that we focus on is site speed, especially if it's loading in the 15 to 20 second range, which the image that I had shared with you was results repeats site speed. When we first started with that about 2 months ago, we were in the 13 second range. We had a video at the top of our website that took forever to load. And we ended up getting rid of it and using a compressed image instead. And now we're down into where we need to be. So there's some adjustments to design that you may have to be comfortable with in order to gain the experience that you want to have. We do, I believe, audits on sites as well too. So if you're interested in that, we can reach out to Carissa.
Right. I was going to say, if you're watching this or reviewing it later and thinking, oh my gosh, I want to work on all this, but I don't know where to start. We do offer a complimentary audit. We can walk you through it. We can maybe, as I said, explain how we can share the responsibility or completely take everything over for you if you need help. One last question for you, Adam. Mm-hmm. Is there any chance, if we're publishing a lot of content, that we could decrease the site's ranking? So if we say we're going to start cranking out some content, trying to help our rankings, and we start publishing 3 or 4 blogs a week, is there any way that could be harmful?
Yes. So you're actually flooding it. And when you flood your site with content, it looks regurgitated. It looks like you just throwing it out there just to create the content. So what you can do is you can consolidate those 3 or 4 posts or multiple posts per week into one overall really high value content piece that's going to react much better, number 1, with users, and number 2, with Google. So instead of just creating 500, 600, 700 word posts and just creating them for the sake of creating them because content is king, you would want to rethink that strategy, and you're going to get a lot more visitors and a lot better rankings out of one post that combines all of that versus cranking out 3 or 4 at a time.
Got it. Makes sense. Well, that is the end of the Q&A. Adam, thanks so much for a great presentation. Really appreciated it. And, again, if you're joining us, please look for our video on YouTube, and we'll also post resources and tools there so that you can look into some of these things on your own website whenever you have a chance.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.